"Where is everyone?" she muttered, glancing around. The lunch bag in Sophie's hand felt heavier than usual as she walked into her husband's office. She had been excited to surprise him, imagining how he would feel when she handed him his favorite meal. But instead of the usual hum of activity, the office was eerily quiet. His chair was empty, and even his secretary was nowhere to be found. With a frown, she stepped out and headed for the receptionist downstairs. The young woman behind the desk smiled brightly as Sophie approached. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Kelvin. How can I help you?" "Do you know where my husband is? Or his secretary?" "His office is empty," Sophie asked, her voice calm but tinged with curiosity. The receptionist hesitated for a moment. Mr. Kelvin rushed Miss Brenda to the hospital. I think it was an emergency." Sophie's heart skipped a beat. "Which hospital?" "St. Mary's. The family hospital." "Thank you," Sophie said briskly, already heading out the door. Her thoughts raced as she drove to the hospital. Why would he take her there? Was she sick? Or could it be something else? The late nights, the hushed phone calls, and the undeniable distance between them, all of it swirled in her mind. No, it can't be. Not Brenda. When she arrived at the hospital, she parked hastily and grabbed her phone, dialing her husband. It rang and rang, but he didn't pick up. Frustration mounted. Sophie took a deep breath and marched to the doctor's office. She had no time for subtlety. She needed to know what was happening. It was unlike him to do that. The family hospital was also the company's hospital. Just 10 minutes drive away, and he had to personally bring her here when there is provision for an ambulance at the company? Reaching the door, she was about to knock when muffled voices stopped her. "Mr. Kelvin, I'm so sorry," came the doctor's voice, heavy with regret. "But she lost the baby." Sophie's breath hitched, her hand frozen on the doorknob. The words echoed in her mind like a bombshell. She lost the baby? Her worlds tilted as realization dawned. She stumbled back, her heartbeat roaring in her ears. Baby? Brenda was pregnant? The lunch bag slipped from her grasp, hitting the floor with a dull thud. Her chest heaved as disbelief mixed with a nauseating sense of betrayal. She gripped the wall for support, her mind reeling. Tears welled in her eyes as a single thought consumed her. This can't be happening. The door opened suddenly, and there he was, her husband, Kelvin. His eyes widened when he saw her, guilt etched across his face. "Sophie? What are you doing here?" Adam's voice cut through the air, sharp and surprised. Sophie froze for a moment, forcing herself to stay calm. She straightened her posture and turned to him, offering a faint smile. "I came to your office to bring you lunch," she replied smoothly, holding up the bag. "But you weren't there, and neither was Brenda. The receptionist told me you rushed her here, so I thought I'd check on her out of goodwill." Adam blinked, caught off guard, then nodded slowly. "I see. That was thoughtful of you." Sophie tilted her head slightly, watching his expression. "Can I see her?" "She's resting," he replied quickly, almost too quickly. Sophie arched a brow but kept her tone light. "What happened to her?" Adam shrugged, slipping his hands into his pockets. "And she collapsed at work. I had to bring her here." "And why did she collapse?" Sophie pressed, her gaze unwavering. His shoulders tensed, but he maintained his casual demeanor. "So, we don't know yet. The doctor's running tests?" Sophie's chest tightened. Liar. She'd heard the doctor's words clearly. Brenda had lost a baby. Yet here he was, spinning a different story entirely. For a moment, neither spoke. Sophie studied him, her mind replaying the past few months, the late nights, the distance between them. And now this. They'd been trying for a child for years, hoping to start a family together. Yet how could they when he barely touched her anymore? "And you should head home," Adam said, breaking the silence. "I'll stay here and see if Brenda can be discharged later." Sophie stared at him, her heart aching with suspicion and hurt. "Oh, seem very concerned," she said softly. "She's my secretary," he replied, avoiding her gaze. "It's my responsibility." Responsibility, Sophie thought bitterly. Is that all it is? Adam stepped closer, gesturing toward the hospital exit. "Come on, I'll walk you out." Sophie followed him silently, her thoughts swirling. When they reached her car, she handed him the lunchbox. "Here," she said flatly. "Thanks," he murmured, taking it from her. He opened her car door, sliding into the driver's seat. Just as she reached for the ignition, she stopped. Her heart pounded in her chest as she called out, He turned, his brows raised in question. "Yeah?" She took a deep breath, locking eyes with him. "Are you sleeping with your secretary?" Adam's eyes widened in shock, and he exclaimed loudly, "What? Are you sleeping with your secretary?" Sophie repeated her question, waiting for an answer. The question hung in the air, like a grenade about to explode. Adam froze, his brows furrowed deeply, and his mouth opened slightly in shock. "What?" he exclaimed, his voice louder than usual. Sophie tilted her head, her gaze steady despite the storm brewing inside her. "Oh, you heard me, Adam. Are you having an affair with Brenda?" "That's ridiculous, Sophie," he snapped, his face hardening. "Where is this even coming from?" She crossed her arms, refusing to back down. "From the fact that you've been distant for months. From the fact that you're here, showing more concern for her than you ever have for me lately. And from the fact that I heard the doctor say she lost the baby." Adam's expression faltered for a fraction of a second, enough for Sophie to notice. "We're eavesdropping?" he said, his tone defensive. "Don't you dare turn this around on me," Sophie's voice rose. "You're my husband, Adam. I had every right to know what's going on when I walked into that hospital and heard—" "Stop," he interrupted, running a hand through his hair in frustration. He glanced around, clearly uncomfortable with the confrontation happening in public. "No, you stop," Sophie shot back, her voice firm. "You owe me the truth. Is Brenda pregnant with your child? Was that what the doctor meant?" "Of course not," Adam retorted, his jaw tightening. "This is insane, Sophie. You're jumping to conclusions based on nothing." "Nothing?" she scoffed. "Late nights, canceled plans, and now this?" "She lost a baby, Adam. Do you expect me to believe you rushed her here out of sheer goodwill?" He let out a deep sigh, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Look, Brenda isn't well. She collapsed at work, and as her employer, I brought her here. That's it. Nothing more." "Then why lie to me?" Sophie challenged, taking a step closer. "If it's as simple as you say, why didn't you tell me the truth the first time I asked?" Adam opened his mouth to respond but hesitated, the pause stretching too long for comfort. Sophie's chest tightened. "You're lying to me," she whispered, her voice breaking slightly. "I'm not lying," Adam said firmly, his eyes meeting hers. "You're overthinking this, Sophie. Please, go home. I'll stay here and make sure Brenda's okay. We'll talk later when we're both calmer." She stared at him, searching his face for the man she thought she knew. "Calm? You expect me to be calm when every instinct I have is screaming that you're hiding something?" "Sophie," he said with a note of exasperation, his voice dropping. "This isn't the time or place for this. Let it go." "Let it go?" She laughed bitterly, shaking her head. "You really think I'm going to let this go, Adam?" "Need you to trust me," he said quietly, his gaze softening. "Please." She let out a shaky breath, her heart warring with her head. Then she held out the lunchbox. "Here, enjoy your lunch." Adam hesitated, then took it, murmuring, "Thank you." Sophie turned, opening her car door. But just before stepping inside, she called out, "Adam!" He turned slightly, one brow raised in question. "Are you sure you are not?" she asked again, her voice steady but filled with raw emotion. His jaw tightened, his hands clenching the lunchbox. "No, Sophie, I'm not. And I can't believe you'd even think that—" Without waiting for her response, he spun on his heel and walked back into the hospital. Sophie sat in her car, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. The clock struck 11 p.m., and Sophie's patience was wearing thin. She tapped her phone screen, dialing Adams's number again, only for it to go straight to voicemail. The empty silence that followed made her jaw clench. Her eyes darted toward the window as she caught the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. She shot to her feet, her silk robe swishing around her legs. Her heart pounded, not from excitement, but frustration. When the front door opened, Adam stepped in with his usual composed gait, his expression unreadable. Sophie stood in the middle of the living room, her arms crossed, her eyes locked on him. "You're still awake?" he asked casually, setting his briefcase down by the door. "I was waiting for you," she replied softly, though her tone carried a sharp edge. Adams didn't respond. He loosened his tie, pulled off his suit jacket, and started unbuttoning his shirt. "Let me help you, darling," Sophie offered, stepping toward him. Her fingers brushed against his shoulder, but he shrugged her off without looking at her. "It's okay, Sophie," he said tersely. Her hands dropped to her sides. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Oh, you look tired," she said gently. "Oh, let me take care of you." He sighed, avoiding her gaze as he moved toward the couch. Sophie followed, her voice softening further. "You've been working so hard lately. I just thought maybe we could spend some time together." Adams sat down, leaning back with a weary expression. "Not tonight. I'm exhausted." Sophie bit her lip, her patience wearing thin. She'd done everything she could, worn the perfume he loved, styled her hair the way he liked, and even put on the silk robe he once called irresistible. But he didn't even seem to notice. "Adams," she said, her tone firmer now. She sat beside him, placing a hand on his thigh. "When was the last time we, spent time together? Just the two of us?" He shifted uncomfortably, pulling away slightly. "Tomorrow morning, Sophie. I promise." That was the final straw. Sophie shot to her feet, her voice trembling with pent-up frustration. "Tomorrow morning? That's all you ever say, Adams. Do you even realize how long it's been since we've been intimate?" Adams blinked, taken aback by her sudden outburst. "Sophie, calm down." "Don't tell me to calm down," she snapped, her voice rising. "And I've been patient. I've tried to understand, but you're barely here, and when you are, it's like I don't even exist." He stood, running a hand through his hair. "I told you, I'm tired. I have a lot on my plate right now." "And what about me?" she shot back, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Do I mean so little to you that you can't even touch me anymore? Or is it because someone else is keeping you busy?" Adams's jaw tightened, his silence cutting deeper than any words could. Sophie stared at him, her chest heaving, waiting for a response. But none came. "What's wrong with me?" Sophie shot back, her voice rising as she broke the silence between them. "Oh, when was the last time we had sex, Adams?" Adams folded his arms, his tone cold. "I don't know, Sophie. Why don't you tell me, since you're obviously keeping track?" 10 months ago, she spat, her voice trembling with anger. 10 months ago, Adams. How can we even think about having a child with that kind of pattern? What the hell is wrong with you? The weight of her words hit him, and for a moment, he was speechless. 10 months? He hadn't been counting. "Am I no longer attractive to you?" Sophie demanded, stepping closer. She pressed herself against him, her hands gripping his shirt, her chest brushing his. Her voice cracked as she added, "Do I not make you feel anything anymore?" Adams swallowed hard, guilt flashing across his face. He sighed, looking away. "It's not that, Sophie. I've just been tired. Work's been overwhelming." "Don't give me that," she interrupted, stepping back. Her eyes burned with tears, her voice trembling. "You're always tired, always too busy. But never too busy for Brenda, right?" He flinched. "Sophie, stop it. You're imagining things." She let out a bitter laugh, pacing the room. "Imagining things? You barely look at me. You barely touch me." She spun around, boiling in rage when she suddenly remembered her lunchbox. He didn't come in with it. "And where's my lunchbox?" Adams exhaled sharply. "And I didn't bring it." "What?" she exclaimed, facing him squarely now. She was hungry, Sophie. She hadn't eaten all day, so I let her have it. And yes, I forgot it when I dropped her off. Sophie froze, her hands curling into fists. Her laughter turned hysterical. "Oh, you dropped her off? You're taking her home now? Do you think I'm a fool, Adams? Do you think I don't know what's going on?" "You're being ridiculous," he said, his voice firm but his expression uneasy. "So ridiculous?" she repeated, her voice trembling with rage. "You're the one sneaking around, lying to my face, and I'm ridiculous?" Adams ran a hand through his hair, frustration seeping into his tone. I'm not lying to you. I told you what happened. Brenda isn't— I don't care what Brenda is, Sophie yelled, cutting him off. She stepped closer, jabbing a finger into his chest. I care about what we are. And right now, we're nothing. You've made me feel like nothing. He opened his mouth to respond, but she didn't let him. You know what? I think it's time we stopped pretending, she said, her voice dropping to a dangerous calm. Apparently, you don't love me anymore, so let's just end this. Let's get a divorce. Adams's jaw dropped, the words hitting him like a punch to the gut. Sophie. Her tears spilled over as she held his gaze. I mean it, Adams. I'm done. Sophie sat up in bed, groaning as the dull ache from last night's tears lingered. Her eyes fluttered open, and the first thing she noticed was a bouquet of flowers resting by her bedside. Next to it, a steaming cup of coffee. She reached for the coffee, the warmth seeping into her fingers, and then sniffed the flowers. Roses, classic. Adam's signature. Is this his way of apologizing? Sophie muttered to herself. Her heart a mix of suspicion and hope. Had he been guilty? Or was this just a desperate attempt to smooth over the mess she had created by asking for a divorce? She put the cup down, grabbed the flowers, and threw on a robe. She didn't want to stay home feeling like this. She was going to find out the truth, one way or another. Brenda. He needed to check on her, confront her. Sophie had the address. Brenda had invited her to a birthday party once, so she knew exactly where to go. He need to know everything, Sophie thought, her grip on the steering wheel tightening as she drove. When Sophie finally arrived at Brenda's apartment, she knocked on the door, impatience making her taps sharper than she intended. After a few moments, the door creaked open. Brenda stood there, pale, her eyes darting away from Sophie's gaze. She looked frail. Something wasn't right. Sophie crossed her arms. How are you? She asked, voice steady but her eyes sharp. Brenda shifted nervously, biting her lip before stepping aside to let her in. Sophie scanned the apartment, her eyes locking on Brenda, who still wouldn't meet her gaze. The tension hung thick in the air. Sophie walked to her kitchen counter to grab a bottle of wine and 2 glass cups. Brenda, Sophie began softly. What happened? Brenda's eyes widened, her face blanching even more. What do you mean? She stammered, her hand instinctively clutching the edge of the counter. Sophie's patience snapped. Cut the act. What's going on? Brenda's eyes darted up, then quickly dropped again. Sophie took a step forward, her heart racing. Oh, know what you are talking about, Sophie, Brenda whispered, her voice barely audible. No, Sophie said firmly, taking another step. One, you don't get to play innocent. I know something happened. Now tell me, what's going on with you and my husband? Brenda trembled, her hands shaking as she poured them both a drink, avoiding Sophie's stare. Sophie took the cup but didn't drink. Sophie